Hello, welcome to the Higher Living Show with Chad. Generally, we have a start where I kind of take it over to the guest straight away. We just chatted, Jodi, offline before we kind of came into this space. And the last thing that you kind of added around what you do in America, I think that's probably with the audience that we have, I think that's probably the best starting point to talk to. Introduce yourself
Mm,
as well, capture
yeah,
people. This is going to take high living into a bit of a different realm to where we've been wanting to be, we wanted to go here for a while. And I think
yeah.
you're going to be able to help guide us there. So over to you and a pleasure to have you.
All right. Thank you so much for having me too, Chad. It's a pleasure to be here. So, yeah, I joined Home Hope, which is a health optimization medicine and practice. So it's a non-profit organization. I went to London in 2019 and I'd heard of Dr. Ted Achikoso on a podcast with Ben Greenfield. And I was like, this man is doing exactly what I need to be a part of. And he was paving the way for shifting the needle on health. So he's really just trying to shift it into looking after health versus looking after disease. And so he's a genius himself. He needs a whole podcast just to talk about what he has done.
Yes.
But really, he created a core sort of 7 pillars that just so closely aligned with naturopathic medicine for me, and just took it to that next step. So I reached out and I said, I'm here. I'm a lecturer. I've done education. Like, what can I do? I need to be a part of this. And so, fast forward to 2025, now part of the faculty, I've created the advanced cannabis module. So we have another advanced peptide module as well. I help write some of the pillars. And it really is teaching doctors and practitioners. And we have many different forms of doctors on the faculty as well as learning. So we have so many coming on board and learning the support and base of really just prevention medicine and
Yep.
looking after the healthy cell. A dashboard that we never thought that we have now in the testing. So that really is, so the Essential Metabolomics course is a 12-week course. And so we have, and we started 2 years ago, a symposium. So our first symposium was in Florida and we teamed up with Microbiome Labs. So a good friend of ours, Kieran Krishnan, fabulous man. And so we teamed up there and we all had our first symposium. It was a great success. Last year we had it in Vegas, and this year in October 17th to 18th is in Colorado. So very different to Vegas where we were stuck inside for a whole week last year. It was I was
Hmm.
I was gasping for fresh air, literally.
Yes, yes, yes. Colorado,
Yeah.
imagine as well, a little bit more, well, Vegas, I think with some of the laws, but more being in nature and this, yeah, Colorado, much,
Yeah.
much better place. What could people expect, right? So say if you there's people that have been tuning into this, what would they
Yep.
expect? And particularly maybe someone that consumes cannabis or consumes,
Mm,
any type of cannabinoid. What could
mm.
they expect from it, and how would that speak to them?
Yeah. So the actual module itself that I created really gives you the 101, the prescribing, the titration. I talk about the endocannabinoid ohm, which is the interaction of the endocannabinoid system with the rest of the body and the external environment. So it's the
Yep.
ohm that we are created in. So it really brings about a different perspective. I follow a lot of Ethan Russo's work. I've interviewed Ethan Russo, and he talks a lot about the tone of the endocannabinoid system. And so I really target more of that in the module. And we talk about, excess tone, reduction of tone, what that means to disease states, and supporting people through their symptoms, and how then we can correct that. So it's like the detection and then the correction. The correction is the cannabinoids that we can be using, and obviously the environmental shifts and the changes, and the evolutionary perspective of where that person is at the moment. So really what they expect, and even into the symposium, is just it's education, it's empowering. And I speak at each symposium generally on a topic of cannabis. Last year was sexual
Yep.
health and cannabis, which was
Awesome.
really good fun. Yeah. And this year, I don't know what spin I'm going to put on it, but it will be something a little bit different. But it's really just teaching you the importance and the power of what actually cannabinoids can do for us. And it's really underplayed and given such a bad name even still to this day. We've come far. But particularly in Australia, I find it to be still something that my clients, every time I suggest to it, they are like, oh no, oh no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing drugs. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like this is
Yeah.
the best medicine in the world.
Yes.
So many things that we do here is like that. And I have to spend time and
Yes.
patience in education and just exploring that for where that fits with that person, very
Yes.
personalized perspective. Yeah.
And I think as well, some of the big hitters in this like emerging health space, like Huberman, for example, and very anti-cannabis in many ways, right? So that whole, and they have such an influence on new startups and have such an influence on this new health, which I think you and I have been part of, for
Mm,
over a decade, and used to be called
yeah.
like integrative medicine, lifestyle medicine, and now it's longevity, and it keeps on kind of changing. And anyway, without going down any holes and keeping us both focused, cannabis is not really seen to be part of this longevity preventative medicine. And I
Mm,
think what you're saying, and everyone has their own pillars and everyone has their own foundations. Are you able to share what the seven pillars are? That
mm.
yeah, okay,
Yeah, yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we have evolutionary biology, we have a epigenetics, we
Yep.
have
Yep. Can you
a
just
big
break
one
that
which is
down? Just so
yeah,
just
yeah,
so someone's listening to this for the first time, I just want to make sure they're like, what? So yeah, just please. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So with the evolutionary medicine and longevity, so we're looking at it comes a lot of what we look at in that particular module is a sort of cell danger response. So Navajo talks about it in a summer winter sense. So we're always aiming for that perfection of homeostasis, but our body goes through fluxes according to what we're consuming, what we're around, what
Hmm.
seasons it is.
Hmm.
And so we talk into that a lot in that particular and because what we do and we support our clients with has to be based on an evolutionary model, and we've come so far from that because we're now in an unnatural environment majority of our time, and so we have to
Yes.
come back to what the body was actually initially designed to do. And so an example would be a cough or a fever. We're trying to now stop coughs and
Yes.
stop fevers, but
Yes.
evolutionarily, we need the cough to remove
Yes.
whatever the infection or irritant is. And then
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
fever is to also get rid of infection, viruses, bacteria
Yes.
to be able to get to a certain point. So it's about supporting those. So from a scientific perspective, biological perspective, we look at
Yep.
this in detail. Chronobiology and circadian health, a lot of people will have heard these terms before. So it's really about, abiding by human laws. And this is where talk about it with my clients. I'm like, you need to abide by these laws to be human. So I'm sorry, you're going to have to do a light prescription. You're going to have to make sure that you're looking after
Hmm.
your sleep. You're going to have
Interesting.
to make sure that you're eating at similar times,
Light
unless
prescription
we,
as well, just to pause. I know you're on one. This is excellent. But light
yeah,
prescription again,
yeah.
making sure people are getting vitamin D. So making sure they're getting
Hmm.
outside and then potentially some
Hmm.
red light therapy as well. Or sorry,
Absolutely.
yeah, the
Yeah.
both of
So we
those.
build
And, yeah.
up. Yeah, so the light prescription for us is getting outside straight away in the morning, and so we're hitting the suprachiasmatic nucleus.
Yep.
We're getting the major clock started, and that
Yes.
starts to give us that really good sleep at nighttime. So your sleep starts at the start of the day. So yes, it's outside, getting sunlight in the eyes, no matter if it's winter.
Yep.
If you live somewhere that has a majority of the time of darkness, you have vitamin D lamps, you have UV lamps that you can be using. So there's no real excuses. We have the technology these days.
Yep.
Yeah, and then getting some good full body exposure in a safe way, and that is building solar callus. And we need to build solar callus, and we need to have hormone production and vitamin D support, cholesterol. So it speaks to all of that. And then yes, red light, and then if we can do sunset, amazing, amazing,
Hmm.
because that's a red light that comes through there as well.
There's a lot in
So
that needs to get out. Yeah, you got a lot in here.
I know I can see you like, yeah, getting redder and redder by the moment, all the
Oh, good.
questions.
Oh, good.
So yeah, so that's chronobiology. I'm trying to sort of summarize as quick as I can here, but We also talk about epigenetics because that's another one of the modules or the pillars, because epigenetics is an important part of what determines the switches on and off for our genes. And it's not particularly just the genes and the genetics. It's more about how we are living and what is determining how that is going to be presented within our body. So
Yeah.
that's a huge component of what we do. And then personalizing that.
And just to
Exposomal.
pause, just sorry
Mm,
again, just to
mm,
pause, just so like
mm.
little take homes. The whole
Yeah,
like the science between epigenetics is also like the last 15 to 20 years, right? So previously we thought things were locked in some
yeah,
ways, so the way you are, the way
yeah.
you are. Whereas now
Hmm.
epigenetics kind of means your genetics can change. And like you said, you can turn things on and off. And that would then
Yeah.
be dependent upon a whole range of factors that we're going to go into today, which you're going to be able to accelerate. Cannabis can be
Mm.
part of that, but you're going to talk about a whole range of different tools. And we're starting with the 7 pillars and we're two down. So sorry to come in, but yeah, you
No, good
continue. Yeah.
summary. No, I like context, and context is good and important when learning. So yeah, so again, following on from that, I see it in clinic. I see the genes getting turned on
Yeah.
for, the genes that we don't want from illness, from sickness, from COVID, from all these things that are causing huge amounts of inflammation and metabolic disease in our society right now. I
Yep.
see it. It wasn't there before, and now it's there now. So it's you can see it live in clinic. So gut immune system, sorry, exposomics was the next one. So we're actually four in. So that was evolutionary, chronobiology, epigenetics, and exposomics. And so exposomics is your toxin load. So anything from the outside or the inside that's causing us to have a higher level of toxic load. And I
Yep.
always describe it to my clients as the bucket overfilling. And so
Yes.
we're always going to have something in the bucket, but it's whether it's overfilling or it's half full. And we
Yep.
need to keep it half full. And so, or half empty. So that's just toxicology and environmental medicine, and molds and all sorts
Massive,
of
right?
EMF. EMF includes in that. We've got yeah, like lighting can be included in that as well
Yep.
because you can have the toxic light. So yeah, all of that
Noise? Is noise a
noise.
factor? Like so
Yeah, look,
like living in a city. I'm based out of South America at the moment, and there's like dit, 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 like it's wild. And so
yeah,
like
yeah,
noise pollution, like
yeah,
to kind of take away peace and clarity and where you're kind of, yeah, like what is your normal state, homeostasis? Like what is that? That noise coming in the whole time
yeah,
disrupts me
yeah, yeah,
100%.
yeah,
What
and
about vibes?
yeah,
what about bad
energy.
vibes as well? That come in?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I love about being with the team at Home Hope is that we are very interconnected with spirituality. And I don't say that to sound cliche, but Dr. Ted does work with, he has a lot of, what do I call it? Retreats that he runs for very, very rich and popular people, very famous people that we are not allowed to say, but they step through, some very amazing
Yes.
spiritual journey.
Like
So
Paul
it
Check.
can't, yeah, well,
Well,
it can't be separated, right? You can't separate
top.
what we do with the spirituality or our energy or our energetics. We are energy. Our body runs off electricity as such. And so all of that is something we can't divide. And this is where the systems of the body can't be divided. So yeah, so the exposomics, the noise, the light, all impacts our nervous system, which is our electrical field. And so, of course, that's going to make a huge impact on us. And it can be toxic relationships we talk about. It can be toxic mental load or negative patterning can also be a huge part. And that's one of the biggest issues in my clinic and I see with other patients and clients is that you have to step through that emotional level to get the last point. You do all the things, you can be as strict as you want. And then if you don't address the emotional component or a spiritual component, you're never going to get better. And that's really hard to swallow sometimes. So
Can I say one thing
yeah.
about that? Um,
Mm,
let me pause. You're on a flow.
mm,
Don't know whether
mm,
to come in now or finish the pillars because what I'm thinking
mm,
is if we've got someone who is chronically unwell, and
Mm.
they are watching this or they're feeling a bit out of place, what can happen
Yeah.
is, okay, so I remember when I got diagnosed with a stage 4 cancer, and
Mm.
I tell a story all the time around the friend with 20 berries, right? So, Bella Gibson, and I think she's going on the rounds around Netflix at the moment. That
Yes.
was kind of
Yes.
Jess Ainscough. She was there, the
Yes.
wellness warrior.
Yes.
Yes, and
Yes.
then Bella. And so these
Hmm.
two were kind of coming up at a time when I was going through my
Yeah. Huge.
overcoming stage 4 cancer. And
Huge.
there was the whole thing around the friend with 20 berries, and the friend with 20 berries means the best thing ever. They're trying to support you, but they've seen something on probably 60 Minutes or something, and they're like, you got to eat these berries. And then if you think,
Mm.
okay, I'm going to go to a professional, one professional would say keto. Then they're going to say these day and age carnivore. One's going to say
Yep.
plant-based. The other one's going to say fasting. The other one's going to say just eat in moderation. And then the other
Yeah.
one's going to go, you got to go full-blown keto and Atkins.
Mm.
And the
Mm.
result can be like, where do I start?
Yeah.
Does this get so overwhelming? And you're like,
Absolutely.
and in this
You have to
day and
start somewhere.
yes. And so that's like, yeah, continue to pillars. But where I think is going to be super helpful is if there is that person who's out there that's like, I am feeling not my best.
Yeah.
I'm
What can we
potentially
do?
consuming the cannabis and it's temporarily making these better changes and I am feeling better reductions, but I probably need a little bit more. And if
Yeah.
like one of the things for the oncology population that I used to talk about was, yeah, it's all good to get into the identity of an individual and work on their fears and their challenges and their anxieties, their worries. Sorry, not the right language
Mm.
there.
Mm.
But if they're like hanging over a toilet and vomiting, it's
They
very
can't think
hard
about
to
it.
get to that point. So if we can like
Absolutely.
utilize some
Yep.
tools, which I think, anyway, I don't want to do too much talking.
Yeah.
Please continue, but I think that's where I kind of want to go to speaking to that
I can
person out
speak to
there.
that.
Yeah, cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can speak to that for sure.
Thanks.
So, no, that's all right. So yeah, so clinical exosomics is that, and then you've got the gut immune system, and so we all have also heard of the importance of the gut.
Yes.
I think it can never be overstated of how important it actually is. And we have the signaling. Now we know there's not an axis anymore. It's we think of a gut, brain axis. It's actually a gut brain immune or a signaling axis. It's a triangle now. It's not a straight up and down. So we have more information about the microbiome, and we can test more about the microbiome. We're learning more about how it impacts us, and we are at the mercy of our trillions of microbes because they overpower us. So it's very important for us to be utilizing tools that we can do to either test and find out. And I think it's important to stop here and just say that, that we need information to do this, and we need some data. Yes, we can sort of listen to posts or to do, listen to YouTube videos and podcasts like this. But unless you actually know for sure you have something or do need to do something about something, that's where data really helps because it can direct the treatment and it can make it less overwhelming. I'll have clients come in and see me and like, I've got a sore stomach. I don't know what to do. I'm like, okay. We ask a big set of questions. We go through all of the information that we might need to find out for that. And then I can have my best guess from my experience of 15
Of course.
plus years.
Yes.
But we don't
It's not a
we don't
guess, it's a
know.
clinical judgment as well. Just to, yeah.
Well, yeah, but I also think it's in some part a guess. Like I don't know what sort of parasites they might have or bacteria that are overgrowing. So I can't
Cool.
always give my best clinical treatment or support
Yeah.
protocol if I don't know more
Cool.
information. And so I think it can be really powerful to actually know more. And that's where talking to like financial issues with clients, it's very important that they get the testing that's actually going to be actionable and you
Yes.
can do something with. And so that's my most important point there, because a lot of practitioners will order and order and order and order, and just to be like, we just need to find out all this. And then, well,
Mm.
now we can't afford any of the treatment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
whoopsies,
And where do I
so you have
start?
to,
Yeah.
and then where do I start? Because I don't really have so it takes obviously a good clinician and then a good set of testing that's worth it.
Yeah.
So that's with the gut, plus other things. Then we talk about the bioenergetics, which is another part of the pillars. And this is the mitochondria. So I gave a lecture to doctors yesterday, actually, in the cohorts. We run cohorts, 12-week cohorts, and I had a cardiologist on there. I had a gastroenterologist on there, and they're all learning this, which is so awesome. I
Yes.
just that they are out there trying to learn a different method of medicine and to help support people in the best way they can, because they know what they're doing is not always going to get to where they want to get to for their clients or patients.
Yes.
So, yeah, so mitochondria is really that crux of, if we don't have good mitochondria, then we can't run our energy. We can't run our engines because they're our main source. And there's a very intricate way that they work and how they need to be functioning, and the cofactors, the toxins, how that all impacts it. So that's bioenergetics. And then clinical metabolomics I finish with, because that's sort of the first one that we talk through, how to be reading some of these panels, looking at a mixture of all of these areas in one module to sort of give you a clinical perspective of how to start treating clients and patients, or even yourself. So people have taken these modules and supporting their own health through this too. So there's options there. So that's home hope.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
home hope.
Amazing.
It's an exciting point for me, because I think we're making huge ground and huge changes in that.
Yeah, and I guess what you're saying as well, the big focus is ensuring that while you can develop a hypothesis based on your clinical judgment, you're then able to target what the root cause is and then enhance a range of different therapies. And I think you call them stacking protocols. Yeah, I think is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
stacking and personalized sort of protocols, because really, when we're looking at a body, it's a matrix. And so I also love working with hormone balancing, and it's a good example, because if you shift one hormone, the others shift.
Yeah.
They're all part of a network.
Yin
And
and
same with the
yang.
body. It's constantly feeding off all the different components of signaling and networks, and it's messaging always between
Mm.
all the different cells. And we have mucosal lining in our lungs, in
Yeah.
our nose, in our
Yeah.
stomachs, in our gut, and they all talk. And so if you are inflamed in your lung, you're more than likely to be inflamed in your gastrointestinal system. So
Hmm.
it's none without the other, and that's where I was coming to before, is that you just can't separate. So it's finding out the best ways to be looking at a dashboard of all these things and how they interrelate and the patterning across that. And then where do we need to be working to pull different triggers and to shift different things, so then all of it comes back into harmony again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you like? What are your go-to? Like, what are your three? You're like, but you look really healthy yourself, right? So you obviously aren't just interested in helping your patients, clients. I don't know if I got the right word
Mm,
there.
yeah,
But
interchangeable.
in terms of yourself, like, what are your sort of three non-negotiables?
Mm. Three non-negotiables would be sleep,
Yes.
always focusing on sleep for me,
Yep.
movement,
Yes.
and community support
Cool. Okay.
and joy. That all comes into that. Laughing, have a really good network of people, you
Awesome.
feed off that energy of people. All the rest sort of, and I'm sure I have many more, but all the rest sort of come off that. And if you don't have those basics,
Your
then your
foundation.
body,
Yep.
yeah, the foundations, and there's many foundations, but I think joy, fun, and community reduce stress. So therefore, that's that big pillar there. Yeah.
That's really cool. Really cool.
Mm.
What do you, in terms of what we see with where most of the market is for Australia for cannabis, and we see, I'm hoping it's going to change, and I'm very confident it's going to change actually, but it's skewed heavily towards inhalation and high potency THC. What are your, what are your thoughts on that?
What are my thoughts? It's and I'll always answer questions like this, because it all depends on what people are
Of
needing it
course.
for,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So it's always personalized, because otherwise, from what we've just already spoken about, you can't you can't know what is intricately going on with the network within that person. So the inhalation and high THC consumption is, whether it's been prescribed or not, obviously that we can see that there's a huge pain issue that we have in society, whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, and therefore we are trying to escape. I don't think that's the best word, but we are trying to numb that in any way we can. And it just speaks to the state of our society, the lack of community, the lack of good sleep, the lack of good
Yeah.
environment, causing our bodies to be highly inflamed and painful and emotionally painful. So this, and it's not a bad medicine. I think there's worse to be numbing with if that's what we're sort of like speaking to. Alcohol is much worse. And I think there's definitely, I would prefer my clients to be consuming that, cannabis-based medicines versus
Yes, of course.
alcohol and others. So it's a what is worse sort of scenario. My comments on that obviously are, we have an oncology specialist naturopath here, Danielle Brown, and she her studies and her papers that she's published are on cannabis and supporting brain cancer mainly. And so we need higher doses in those cases, and that is
Yes.
that for that client, they need that. That is their best
100%.
medicine they can ever consume. Yeah. And it has therapeutic healing properties as well.
No
So it's
doubt.
just, yeah, so it's just whether these things are used for the right purpose and the right, in the right amount, the right dose, the right titration, and it's not in harming anyone in any way. And this is where the monitoring,
Yes.
and what we can do on the ground level and making sure everyone has what they need and doing what they need is the important part.
And
Yeah.
that would be like that personalized prescriptions, right? So there could be an acute need. I am in so much pain. I just need to relieve this right now. And there could be that,
Hmm.
whereas there could be other maintenance doses of higher CBD, much more mild THC, other routes of administration, et cetera, then balanced in with what
Yeah.
you're very big on is the right tools, education, and support. Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you're just thinking about, because again, I want to be rather practical. And so if people are out
Mm,
there at the moment and they are finding relief in whatever form of cannabis they're using to reduce symptoms,
mm,
where could they look next? And to be able to help guide them, have you got an example, like a case study, no names, nothing to identify the individual or anything,
mm.
but starting points that you could share with people? Because I always think like that Roger Bannister effect is so helpful. I'm not the one starting here. I already see people in front of me.
Yeah.
And if we're hearing about this, we see 2025, these health trends are starting to ramp up significantly, right? And so people are probably hearing about this, so it maybe hit them at the right
Mhm.
time. And if
Mm.
they are, yeah, tell us a case study, or tell us, briefly as well. Just outline what have you seen that has been super successful, and how can you incorporate, the importance of the right tools, environment, and support to then be able to get that outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, the wellness trends, like we are on a steep curve up with the
Ooh,
wellness market. We
yes.
are looking at billions, and then we're snowballing upwards. So people are taking this stuff seriously. They
It
know that
all,
there's another option out
it
there.
also comes with grifters as well, though, right? So it also
Mm,
comes with
mm.
a self-interest in I'm pushing this, I'm pushing this, I'm pushing this. Hey, buy my collagen. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
I know.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And so that's
Absolutely.
why, and in some ways, if you follow them and you may go by that and have, great. We want people to be able to, if there's going to be billions, we would probably, no, not we, I would probably prefer that people are coming up with their tribes, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just
Yeah.
going to because that's going to come from somewhere. And what we think, the model of how pharmaceuticals and I guess the trust that they may have lost as a result of what's gone on in these past 5 years, particularly on the back of already decades of unwanted side effects, to be
Yeah.
able to come to a position where we see a global trend towards more natural medicines, cannabis included, but not only
Yeah.
not only that. And so, if profit's going to come from somewhere, it should be spread out. We would hope to a whole lot of different tribes. So it is, all good if people have got their products, but I guess the main point is people have got to be mindful. What is the incentive and what is the message behind some people that they follow. Hopefully I gave you some time to think there around the case studies. What do you think?
Oh, I got him. I'm quick on the mark anyway, Chad. It's all good. But yeah, I just wanted to speak to that point actually, is because I've been approached over the years by so many people to be a active advocate, or an ambassador for certain products. And I have over the years also considered making my own products and trying to market those. But the problem is I always stop at, oh, well, this wouldn't suit this person or this wouldn't suit that person. And
Mm,
so it's not, I can't use this for every single person. So how am I going to be living with myself and sleeping better at night if
yes.
I then sign up to this? So it's a hard, it's a money industry, and we know that, and we need money, but it is,
Yep.
when I want to sleep well at night, for me personally, I feel like I need to just be staying at that personalized compounding style level at the moment.
Yep.
So yeah. So case studies, yes. So speaking to the endocannabinoid system, it is everywhere. And I think I just wanted to, like, 101, like, we have the, CB1, CB2 receptors. They are across literally the whole body, but, one or two areas. And then the endocannabinoids we also have. And then we have the enzymes that control this. So break down, keep there. And then we also have the terpenes that we use and the cannabinoids that we use that come from cannabis, plus other plants, because we can't ignore those and the terpenes as well. And we have the entourage effect, so that we have different forms of trying and trialing medicines and cannabis-based medicines. And this is also sort of coined by Dr. Ethan Russo, that we have this entourage impact, which we talk about medicine in general, of what we do here. We have the synergism of the herbs, synergism of the medicines that work well together. So when we're using cannabis medicine, I can use it for so many different purposes across different case studies, and also use different minor cannabinoids as singulars or as combinations if we're trying to achieve certain things. And I say me here, I refer out to two fabulous doctors in Perth. I'm very lucky to know. So Medican and Mode, and they deal with and support the prescriptions, and then I help guide clients and patients on more of a close network basis. So I just wanted to clarify that for
Awesome.
Australia.
Yep.
So yeah, so for a case study, I think of a few, but this one girl recently, young girl, teenager, so she was 13 at the time, came to me, and I see this often. This is not an uncommon case, and it's quite unfortunate that women and girls going through puberty create and have this huge anxiety issue and mentality. And so was too scared to go to school, would have panic attacks, frustrated, staying in bed all day, really low energy, couldn't get up, had bad periods, bad stomach pains. So there was a whole range of things going on, breaking down in clinic, crying and barely being able to get her in the clinic. And so we worked with support. We did gut testing. We did some other things. So I found out, and we did all the blood tests. We're looking at iron. We're looking at all the different intricacies of the networks. But then, when we're prescribing, I need to look at what would be most effective for the time. And so I sent her off to get a CBD or a so it's a whole plant CBD,
Sure.
a whole plant with very low THC, very, very low THC. So she could be using it at any time. And within 2 weeks, this beautiful girl was
Wow.
higher energy, could get to school, could talk to her mum again. And her mum looked at her and she said to me, Jodi, if she's on this and she's doing this, can I take it too?
Yeah, 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 of course. Of course.
So for her, we had done the foundations, and I think all medicine works when you get the foundations right. The brickwork, if it's off skew and one's falling off, then it's never going to lay down a really good foundation. So when I talk about that, that's sort of like the modules, I guess, the easiest, the pillars that we look at, making sure all those are laid out.
Yes.
So that particular girl is still doing really well, and we're navigating certain immune things. But because of the way that cannabis works, it strengthens immune system, it strengthens the nervous system and supports the nervous system. I use it in detox strategies because it actually helps
Yes.
support clients to detox more
100. Yeah.
effectively,
Yep.
and children too. I've used it in a child who had a very severe case of hypoxia at birth, and was subsequently brain damaged and in a wheelchair. And father wanted to have so many different supports and didn't want to have medications as much as he could for her. We put her on CBD with the
Mm.
support of the
Mm.
doctor.
Yeah.
So she's having better outcomes with her nervous
Amazing.
system. She's able to detox better and she's able to have less interactions with what she's taking as well. So,
Fantastic.
yes, yes,
Fantastic.
there's so many more I could give you, but I
Of
know we're
course.
short of time.
No, but that's also, I think what you've just outlined there is, I think that's what people want to hear as well. And that can be so helpful. You mentioned before you don't have supplements, but what you do have is a place where people can come and get this sort of treatment, and that is available, and that's what you've created. So that's where people can go, and we're going to send some of that, and there's going to be links as well. But one of the things that I kind of want to close with is people are doing it tough financially, and at times it's
Mm,
always seen that to get in and receive the type of wellness, preventative, longevity medicine that we see now kind of coming into mainstream, it's super expensive. Like, what are maybe 2 to 3 areas that people could take immediate action? And you've already said some, get outside and get some sunlight, right?
mm,
Before 10.
yeah.
But what else can there be little take homes before then people come and listen to your podcast, connect with you and find out more for themselves, for a family member, etc. But what would you say? Because I think it needs, yeah, I think it's an important part when people are under the pump and it's like, well, where do I start? And also how do I afford that? So
Yeah. Yeah.
practically, like I
So,
know, yeah.
yeah, no, absolutely. And we obviously hear this a lot as well. And what we offer is not the cheapest, but it's also when you put it in, and firstly I start with this, I guess, is that, what cost do you put on your health? And
Yeah.
so when people are spending on specialists and not getting answers, or on other treatments and that's not happening, and it's hard to know where to go first to get all of that information and to trust that provider because you
Yep.
you don't know. There's nowhere to tell you, oh, this person's the best.
Yes.
So there's a lot of a runaround and you waste a lot of money on that as well, and energy and frustration. So normally when we get clients coming in, they are almost at the end of the road and they're like, oh my gosh, can you just help me? Like, this is just ridiculous. So when we work with that, and if you reach out and you're really struggling, and we do pro bono as well. So
Oh,
we have a mixture of cases that we can do pro bono.
yep.
Um, but in saying that, the basics always are the first that we start with anyway. So when I have prescriptions, my clients, they get emails from me every time I see them, and I run through all the essential things that they need to have. Like you said before, the non-negotiables. And
Yep.
the non-negotiables is, pure water,
Yep.
minerals, sunlight,
Yep.
good sleep,
Yep.
good environment, take
Yep.
the toxins away from you, don't it generally relates to being less financially viable for them when they're buying expensive,
Yeah.
nice looking things. Just go
Yeah.
simple. And so
Yeah.
simple is always the best way. Getting grounding, getting
Yes.
movement, make sure you
Yes.
walk, make sure you're getting differences in temperature. Don't allow yourself to be always in a air-conditioned place. Make sure you're getting natural temperature regulation. The As I said right at the start, the biggest thing you can think about is like, okay, what does it take to be human? How are we connected? What are we living and by the laws of the earth? And
Yes.
if we're not, then we need to change our habits and shift that. So there's many things that you can do within that for free.
Yes.
Um, so laugh, put on music and dance
Yep.
naked in the kitchen.
A hundred
Make sure you're
percent.
having sex and having good laughing conversations and going out with your friends. Who cares if it's 20% of the time that you're eating bad, but you're with friends that you love and you're laughing with. So there's always got to be a balance. I came from a point where we're out of uni, strict as anything. I was like, can't have bread, can't have alcohol.
Yeah.
It was a miserable existence because yes, you need to do it at some point, but when there's a point in time where you're balanced and you're okay and you're good and you don't need to
Yep.
heal to the extent that you need to, you can just relax a little bit and have more fun. And so that's where I try and give the balance and perspection when we're talking to clients as well.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
so good. That's so good. And that is probably going to be us. But we're going to have to leave
Yeah.
information below for people to be able to connect with you afterward.